are waiting to hear from you, so get those comments in.
Good evening and welcome to the Red and Blue Review. I am Nick Philpott and I will be your host tonight. Please feel free to like and subscribe to the show and enter your comments.
Has anybody got any idea what the hell that was all about? Okay, but anyway, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome back to the Red and Blue Review for the 24-25 season. As it said just a minute ago, I am Nick Philpott and I am your host throughout the season, ably assisted by the usual wonderful crew. Already in the chat, I can see you out there, guys. William, Tom, Graham and everybody else. I'm shortly going to be joined by the crew. Rob Cranfield, hello, mate. Good evening. Before we open the show and I introduce my illustrious panel to you, which I will do in a second, I would like to send out, on your behalf, if you don't mind, everyone, our very warm wishes to Gel Holyoke, who has had a triple bypass over the summer. And yes, I have got his permission to talk about it. He's currently recovering at home. He might even pop on. He's obviously had a very, very, very difficult summer, but he's doing okay. He's doing much better than he was. I think it's going to be a long road to recovery, but he will be with us all season. He promised me. I can see the rest of you out there: James, Philpott, Paul Grant, Daniel, Dawn, Bruce. I can see you, Brucey boy. Oh, congratulations to Bruce Muirhead, who's out in the chat. He's been elected to be the chairman of the Disabled Crystal Palace Supporters Association. So, on behalf of your friends here at Red and Blue Review, Bruce, congratulations, mate. Jordan and Paul, I can see you. We're all here. Nigel, you bringing any of the others up, or is it just going to be me and Knobbly? Okay. First of all, welcome back, Ian. Nice to see you, mate.
Evening, Nick. Yeah, good evening to you. Good evening, everyone. It's good to be back. Pre-season, start of a new season. I think you'll find, Nick, Gel's had just a double heart bypass, but there again, you've always been prone to exaggeration, haven't you? So there you go.
Okay, so
go, Gel. Get well soon, mate.
I'm completely ignoring him. And welcome back, Mr. Tid. How are you, man?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Nick. Evening, everybody. Yeah, well rested. Looking forward to the new season.
The fact that you five are sitting here, I presume you're all fully committed to the Red and Blue Review for the coming season. Miss Baker, how lovely to see you. I'm purposely ignoring the geese on the left. Okay, Miss Baker, how are you, my lovey?
I'm great, thank you, Nick. Excited for the season to start. It's nice to see Daniel Garlick's been missing us.
I've had lots of messages. Funny you should say that. Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, I saw that. I've had lots of people saying the same thing over the last couple of weeks. Tim Richards, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, thank you. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all.
And finally, last but definitely not least, how many is it? 660 record appearances for the club and a Red and Blue Review regular. Welcome back to Lord James Cannon. Jim, how are you, mate?
I'm very well, but I much preferred the introductory voice than what you were saying now.
Yeah, what was all that about?
I don't know, but it was good.
You can tell Nigel's going to have too much time on his hand over the summer because I didn't even know it was coming. Boys, would you have a chat amongst yourselves just for a minute? Somebody important has just contacted me, relevant to the show, and I just think you need to send him a message. So, would you? I don't know, Ian. Where do you want to keep on?
There was nothing like throwing you under the bus.
You'll see why in a minute. You'll see why.
That's good. Right, so it's good to be back, isn't it, everyone? And it's good that everyone's watching us. We've had a decent pre-season, I think. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about pre-season a little bit later on. But undefeated in pre-season. Let's come to each of you in turn. Fergus first. What's been your best moment of pre-season so far, mate?
I guess winning the Interstate Cup, beating Wolves and West Ham. I did enjoy the Crawley game as well. 9 goals.
Punch the air when we won that cup. Look at that. You'll add that to the ZDS. We'll take it, won't we? Eh? Do you reckon? Put it in the trophy cabinet with the ZDS. And
did you think they looked a bit embarrassed though, holding the cup up? It was almost like they didn't want to be there. So.
It was. That's how it came across as well. Look what we got. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you seen much of pre-season, Jim? Have you watched much of pre-season?
Watched some of the highlights of the Wolves and West Ham game, and I was at the game. I was working yesterday. So I saw the best thing about yesterday was the final whistle because it was too hot even to sit and watch it.
There speaks a true Palace professional. T, what about you? Have you enjoyed pre-season?
I did. I didn't even get to Crawley though because I was working. Typical. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I love us beating West Ham again. I'm hoping that becomes a habit.
Yeah, well, we've got them again in a couple of weeks, so we need to make sure that we win when it really counts. And Tim, from a fab angle, has it been a quiet summer or busy summer for you?
Pretty quiet. It's going to heat up pretty quickly, which we'll go over later. But yeah, pre-season, I was quite pleased with it. It was actually, for me, there wasn't one moment really, but it was the way we played. The pressing was still going. Everyone looked keen. There seemed to be a method to the play. There seemed to be organisation. So it was very pleasing.
Good stuff. Now, while we were talking there, did Joe appear and then disappear?
Yeah, that's who I was trying to get link into a minute ago. He's trying to join us. He's just having his usual technical difficulties. Nothing like a new season. Nothing like a new Joe Holyoke when it comes to technology.
Here he comes.
Here
Here he comes.
Hello, mate. Welcome back. How are you? I've just been talking about you.
Thanks. A little bit. I was just. I haven't cleaned the camera for ages, so I just had to cut it back off and clean it.
Yeah, you look good. You're looking better since I last spoke to you the other day, actually.
But looking better than you normally do.
Well, thanks for that.
You've had a difficult summer, I've just been telling everyone.
Yeah, it's been trying, but onwards and upwards, hopefully, from now on. Had a double bypass, so yeah, it's been difficult. I had a few problems with it, but hopefully it's all sorted now, and I can just get on with trying to get a bit fitter, a bit thinner, and but yeah, very thankful to be here. Thankful to my family and friends, and also to the surgeons and everyone at King's King's College in London. Yeah, big up.
Well said, mate. Well said. And Joe, make sure you keep your eye on the chat because there's loads of messages piling through from you. One from Georgia Wagyu and Lee and a couple of others. And forgive me, ladies and gents, I'm just going to say a very good evening to somebody. Oh, look, John Knox is there as well, asking after you, Joe. Ray McWilliam down in Crawley. I know you're watching, mate. Great to see you today, buddy. Okay, hopefully we'll spend a lot of time together over the next few months. Right, so we're going to move on if you don't mind. We're going to talk about the transfer window, if it's possible. Okay, and how things have progressed. Obviously, we've just touched on the American tour. I think that the biggest thing so far this summer, and something very important for the club, is the departure of one Michael Olise to Germany. And I think we can all say that we were blessed to see him in Palace colours, and it was inevitable it was going to happen. Jim, I'm going to start with you if you don't mind. How do you feel that's going to impact on the club?
Well, I mean, obviously you're going to miss him because probably the last half a dozen games, he was the best player on the park every game. He's got a unique set of skills, left foot, right foot, and his delivery into the box, left foot and right foot, is phenomenal. And I think that'll be a big miss because Mateta was feeding off that all the time. But I mean, you can't deny the kid going to a team like Bayern Munich and playing in the Champions League. So all we can say is good luck to him. But he didn't play enough for us. I think Ian said it earlier on. He only played, 19 games, did you say, Ian? So
yeah, 19 appearances, all in the Premier League last season, 10 goals and 6 assists.
I mean, he had a few injuries, so it would have been nice to have maybe seen 2 complete seasons, but you just wish him all the best, and we got 45, 50 million quid out of it. So let's hope he buys a centre forward with it.
Well, on that subject, obviously he's brought in 2 or 3 players that we're going to come on to in a minute. Teresa, what impact do you think the departure of Michael's going to have?
It's going to have an impact, obviously. I'm just glad he didn't go to English Premier League club. We don't have to play against him. I do wish him all the well. I hated his attitude with the silver medal at the Olympics. But it was very bad sportsmanship, just taking it off, putting it in his pocket. As far as Palace is concerned, if we manage to keep hold of Eze, Mateta, I think Munoz looked really good down the wing yesterday. He was getting some balls across and into the box, and if he can do that, if we keep Mateta, I think we'll be all right.
So we keep Mateta and Eze, Joe. I'm coming to you now. So there was lots of speculation last week about bringing back one Wilfried Zaha. It looks as though that's not going to happen now. But what are your thoughts on that, Jill?
Well, that's the message exactly there that I put in our chat. Yeah, I mean, for me, look, he's been an icon at the club, and from afar he always will be. But we need to move on. I mean, you know, we had 2 goes with Will, and both times, you know, they were successful. The second, obviously, more so. He was probably the integral part of keeping us up for a couple of seasons. But we do have to move on. It's like this, you know, this going back to ex-Palace players being managers of our club. You know, sometimes you have to move on. And I think, you know, manager-wise, you can see what we can do if you do move on in a different direction. But for me, I think, you know, Will wanted to go. And my personal thing would be it would be a step backwards to take him. He might be good for 4, 5, 6, 7 games of the season, but we need someone that's going to be that wants to improve, that wants to grow with the club. And Wilf won't grow with the club. You know, there was a couple of times I saw him publicly fall out with players on the pitch, and he's, you know, whether you love him, hate him, you know, whatever. I think by him not coming back to the club, he'll keep that love. So for me, it would have been a backward step. The wages he's on are horrendous, and I think we could use those going into a completely different, very much younger direction. And let's not forget that, you know, hopefully after his injury hit season, that Frank can step up and be the Wilf that we hopefully think he might be able to be. So, you know, whether or not he can do that, you know, it's all conjecture, really, isn't it? But I would have said it was a step backwards, and wherever he ends up going, you know, I'm sort of not glad, but I hope it isn't us.
Well, the beauty about it, of course, is we haven't got to face him at least every week. Unfortunately, we're going to have to face Zaha because it looks as though he's going to be joining Leicester. Tim, what are your thoughts on the potential of bringing Wilf back? You're on mute. I thought you were supposed to be a technical genius like me.
Yeah, I never said genius. I think 170 grand a week wages was too much. In some ways, it'd be good to see him back, but no, not for me. I see that the BBC 4 hours ago were reporting that Palace was still open to it and looking at it, but that's probably just hearsay and conjecture. I don't think he'll come back.
I think it's quite interesting that we ran a poll. Ian, I believe you set the poll up on Twitter, and I think the overall thought process, and there it is. Thank you, Nigel. 59% of people saying on there, let's move on. Thank you for doing it.
I just knew that this would split the fan base. As soon as it was announced that Wilfried Zaha was potentially returning to Crystal Palace at the age of 31 for a second time, having left us once before, I just knew it would split the fan base. So we've got that result there, which said 60% said, no, thank you. And 40% said, yes, please, we'll sign him up. And you know, I don't feel as strongly about it as Gel does, but I'm leaning now very much towards the fact that we're better off without him. I don't think he'd necessarily get into our first team straight away for a start. I don't think he'd be happy sitting on the bench. He's not happy sitting on Galatasaray's bench. So why would he be happy sitting on our bench in the Premier League? I think he'll probably choose a club like Leicester City because he'll know he'll get minutes there in the Premier League. Leicester City are arguably a worse side this year than they were last year in the Championship. They're doomed, mate. They're going to go down unless they do something dramatic in the window. They're going down because they lost their best player at Chelsea. and they need reinforcements, and Wilf will play for them every week.
Ferg.
No, I'm kind of with Joe on that. If it was going to block a younger player's development, then no. But then on the flip side, if you're losing with 15 minutes to go and you've got Zaha, Ayew, and Schlupp on the bench, who are you going to bring on? You'd bring Zaha on, wouldn't you? It'd be an improvement for one season. So, yeah, I was kind of torn, but I'm kind of like Ian. I think last week I want him back, and now I'm like, I'm not so sure now.
Hang on 2 seconds. Jim, can I just ask you a question? If he was to return, because this Leicester thing's not completed yet, okay? So if he was to return, where would we actually play him? Where, because we don't play with out-and-out wingers anymore. Where would we actually play him?
Good question. I would imagine he'd play on the left side of midfield, part of the front three, I would imagine. It's a very contentious sort of chat, isn't it? Because it's all conjecture. I mean, Tim's mentioned £170,000 a week. Listen, there's no way Palace would pay him that money. So Palace are in the driving seat. They don't need him. So he's got to come down. They're not going to pay Galatasaray £9 million a year to take a player that probably Oliver Glasner's not really that interested in.
Yeah.
I would imagine, knowing Steve Parish, let's face it, Wilfred probably kept us in the league for quite a few seasons with his displays. So Steve Parish will love that guy. If you could get him at a reduced fee, I don't think he would be a bad acquisition. He'll be a small fish in a bigger pond as opposed to the other way around. He does contribute 10, 12 goals a season. And if he could buy into the way Palace play, but Glasner would have no problem just dropping them and leaving them on the bench. So it's a would I not? I'll actually sit on the fence on that one. I'm not quite sure.
Joe, very quickly to you, and then Teresa to you. Now we're going to move on, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let me reiterate. I'm not absolutely 100% dead against him. And Pick was saying that, if he did come back to the club, whether I always said that I thought that when the Premier League sussed out Wilf, they put two players out on him on the week and it nullified him. But the times that we actually played him up front, he was magnificent. He has got a left foot, he has got a right foot, and he occasionally has got a header. And he would definitely, for me, only up front would be a viable option to Mateta or whomever. So if we were to get him back, I mean, for that kind of money, if we were just paying half his wages at 80, 90,000, I'm sure that we could get some young Eastern Europe, Eastern Bloc player, or, one of these rapid, skillful left foot, right foot, for that kind of money. But I would take him back as a forward, but whether he would actually do what our club has very much become in the last year or so and be a squad player, I think that his psyche is that he is a first team player only. And for me, he would not be. On the left side, he would never get in front of Eze again. So for me, he would be a squad player at best. And up front as well.
Final thoughts on the subject with you, Teresa, and then we're going to move on.
I would only have Wolf back if he wanted to be back, to be honest. Why would he want to go to Leicester? They're already starting off with relegation with points deduction, aren't they? I mean, they're starting off the season. They've got a points deduction already. And with Wolf's involvement with Croydon AFC as well, would he want to go to Leicester? If Wolf wanted to come back, I'd have him back, personally.
Right, so that's the one that's gone, one that's not coming back, and then we've got three new arrivals. Who was going to cover the incomings? Ian, that was you, wasn't it?
Yeah, we took. I mean, Ferg and I, we haven't quite rehearsed this bit, but I'll lead on it. Then Ferg, feel free to come in, mate. So, the three key players come in. They all got minutes yesterday. Of course, we've got Diachi Kamada, a Japanese international on a free transfer from Lazio. Looked very exciting. Of course, he got his first goal yesterday at Selhurst Park. So I think he looks at a great prospect. Chadi Riyad, who's a Moroccan international, only 20 years of age, I think he is. Now, if Mark Gahey doesn't leave, arguably he doesn't get into the first team, but if Mark Gahey does leave, he's a ready-made replacement. Then we've got Ismail Assar, which I think is arguably the most controversial of the three, in as much as, we were in for him previously when he was at Watford. We signed him from Olympique Marseille for £12.6 million, and he got a few minutes off the bench yesterday, so he wasn't in our starting 11. But, I think all three are useful additions. Ferg, I probably said it all, have I? Or do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, no, you've said it all, mate. No, I think Riyad looks really, really good. He's going to push Chris Richards, I think, maybe, but that's healthy, isn't it? That's what you want.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And I think we probably, the one position that I really think we need to focus on is striker. Because I think Edouard just looks, he's struggling. He's really struggling. I can't wait for JP to be back next week. But yeah, we've got, what have we got? A defender, a midfielder, and a midfielder / attacker in Sarr. I think Glasner's going for players that can cover multiple positions rather than, playing in a specific position on the pitch. We've seen that sort of towards the back of last season. So, yeah, all decent signings.
Yeah, you mentioned Riyad, and I'm glad you did. And he's going to be challenging Richards for a position, or is he? Is he going to be Mark? Has he been brought in for Mark Gay's replacement?
Well, that's how I read it. I read him as being signed to replace Mark Gahey if Mark Gahey leaves. Having said that, we are linked with other centre backs as well. I think that Chalobah's been mentioned at Chelsea. There's another one. Someone else tell me who it is. I can't remember off the top of my head. Lacroix, that's the boy. We've been linked with both of those as well. So I think if Mark Gahey does leave, we'll probably move for somebody else. But Riyad is already there. And, he's shown in the pre-season that he can do a job. He's looked composed on the ball. He's only a young boy still. He looks like a baller. All these centre-backs now have got to be ballers, haven't they? They've got to be able to play football, really play. I'm not going to say what I was thinking there, Jim, but probably what I'm going to say. Back in your day, it was different, mate, wasn't it? For a centre half. But nowadays,
I played football.
Yeah, you did.
You saw me play. I used to come out and play football.
You did.
I could kick the lumps out of people as well. But I could play left and right foot. I was more than adequate.
I'm digging a big hole for myself here, but there we go. Jim, we love you. But I really rate Riyad, what I've seen of him so far. Time will tell, of course, whether he's good enough for the Premier League long term, but definitely a very good squad acquisition, I think. And he didn't cost the earth either.
Lacroix's meant to be very much like Anderson, but on the other foot. So imagine having two of those, that can pass the ball like that.
Because John Knox just raised the point in the chat that Anderson's been linked with Fulham, obviously for a derisory 20 million quid. That would buy him one of his feet. Could we actually lose Gee and Anderson in the same window?
Personally, I don't think so. I think that would never happen. I think that 20 million, that's a joke price for Anderson. He had some time there, didn't he, on loan, so he knows the club. But I think he's worth at least double that. And even then, I'd be sad to see him go for as much as 40 million. I think he's worth that to us. He's a really good player. He's going to be captain, isn't he, this season, I think? He's going to wear the armband.
Is he?
Yeah, and I just don't want... Well, Gahey, if Gahey stays, but I can't see that happening. That's another topic of conversation with the bid that we've seen today, the third bid that's come in for Gahey. So...
we're going to come on to that. Just hold that thought on the Gahey bid in a second, Ian. Jill, just make your point, mate. We're going to come on to that. Just hold that bid in a second, Ian.
Oh, we've lost you.
Who, me or Jill?
No, you then for a minute. Sorry.
Jill, are you there?
Sorry. He's listening to the radio.
Refusing a phone call off of someone.
I thought I could hear your phone.
I am.
Go on, you had your hand up.
No, someone just tried to phone me. Sorry.
Go on, mate. Go on, you had your hand up.
The Anderson thing. I think it'd be catastrophic if we left him. I mean, he literally is a baller. That's the thing. he is. I think he's an integral part of the team. Down the spine of the team. If we lose him, I would not be happy at all.
Right, I'm glad you said that, Joe, because I'm going to come on to one other question. But guys, we've got a guest on in 5 minutes, okay? And so I need to get through this next topic in a few short sentences.
I need to go in a minute.
Huh? Say again?
I need to go in a minute.
No, it's fine, mate. That's absolutely fine. So can any of you envisage the situation, Tim? I'm going to start with you, and you're on mute, okay? Where we lose Elise, Eze, and Gaye all in the same window, and potentially even Anderson.
I'd like to say no. I think if we did, then there's no hope for us as a club ever progressing or getting to the next stage, because we haven't got the resources simply to buy replacement players. So it can't happen. It mustn't happen.
That's frankly not correct. If you don't mind me jumping in and coming back at you, our whole business model at the moment is buying them cheap and selling them on. So you say we haven't got the resources. If we were to sell Anderson, Elise, and Gaye in the same window, we're going to be sitting on best part of, I don't know, 150 million quid. New stadium.
Would Glasner stay?
Yeah, and that's a great question. That's a blinding question, because the same thought crossed my mind. If we were to lose all three of those during this transfer window, that was a thought that crossed my mind as well. Anybody else?
It's just not going to happen. I don't know why we're talking about it. We're not going to lose that many players in this window. What you've got to understand, though, is that our model is to find talent in the Championship, in lower divisions, develop them, make them into better players, and sell them at a profit. That is our model at the moment. That's not to say that's always going to be our model, but if you look at the window, the window that Elise arrived, I think so did Anderson and so did Gaye. I think it was the same window. It's an amazing window. So Friedman is brilliant at what he does, finding these players. So you'd only think he's going to carry on doing that. I mean, look, he turned down and moved to Newcastle United to stay at Crystal Palace. It was only a few months ago we were talking about that. So. We know we're going to get players coming through in the future. And who's to say the boy Riyadh isn't going to be another one? Who's to say that someone like Jack Raksaki isn't going to develop into a really good baller like Michael Elise, and he's already a made replacement at the club, ready to come in, if not now, in 6 months' time? Who's to say that's not going to be the case?
Thank you, mate. Very quickly, Joe, because our guest is waiting.
Yeah, no, I'll make this point and then I'll leave. It wouldn't surprise me if there's probably 1, 2, or even 3 players that may leave next year, much the way that we thought we were going to lose Michael Elise to Chelsea all that time ago, and then it didn't happen, and then all of a sudden he's sitting on Parish's boat signing a new contract, which works out perfectly. And I'm hoping that the conversation has already been had with Eze and Gaye. It seems to be that I thought Gaye would have been gone by now, and because he hasn't, and we start the season next year, I think it'll be, I think it'd be foolhardy for anybody to buy him, for us to let him leave with such a short notice. So it wouldn't surprise me if some of these players that have been basically, had their wages upped and said, look, give us another year and I'll let you go, or give us another year and then see where we are. Because I would hate to throw this team away. I would really, apart from Michael Elise, we get half a season out of him through injury. But, if we could keep this team and we've added to it in some kind of, with quality, we hope, I think that we have a chance if we don't have a chance at the little league in Europe, then we certainly have a chance in the cups. And I think that this team and this squad does definitely have a good chance.
Thank you, mate. Jim?
Yeah, we keep on about Gaye. We played the last 10, 11 games without Michael Gaye last year, and we never missed him one little bit. But what surprised me more is that he played in a pre-season friendly a week before the season's going to start. He's worth 65 million. And if he had an injury, that's all gone. So I don't actually think anything's set in stone as far as he's going to go. I mean, Eze, he's not going to go. He seems quite happy. He seems the type of lad who's just going to play. And you've got to remember, like Anderson going to Fulham, he's taking a step backwards. Now, our club will pay him more money to stay than Fulham would pay him. So I don't even think that comes into the equation. The only one I wouldn't worry about going would be Gehi, because I think we've got the players to cover him. Plus, we've got 60 million off of him. We need another centre forward because Edward showed yesterday that he's a total waste of space. And if JP Mateta gets injured, we could struggle.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we have Jim Cannon on the show. Thank you, mate. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to put a pause on it then. Joe, if you need to drop off, mate, feel free to do so. We love you. And we're glad to see you.
Thanks, everyone. Great to see you again. I'll see you all soon.
You take care.
Cheers, buddy.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure of mine to welcome to the show Phil Huffer from, is it the Eagle-Eyed View Women's Football Podcast?
It is indeed, Nick. Yeah, thank you. That's the one, yeah.
There it is, right there. So tell people where they can find that podcast, mate.
So it's run by Mike Whewell. He and myself co-present the podcast. It's during the season. It's usually every week, usually on a Wednesday or a Thursday. And you can join it live on Twitter Spaces, or you can catch up free of charge on Spotify. So thanks. Nice little plug. Thanks, Nick.
Mate, you're welcome, because we support you, and you know that Red and Blue Review have always supported the women's game, and the fact that they're now in the WSL, and I know that you guys are very close to the ladies team. So how did you feel when we finally got that promotion?
Well, obviously it was a surprise over the season, but as the season went on, we realised how good we were, and I think the key thing was in January we needed to strengthen in a couple of areas, and we did it really well with loans. So we brought in Rhea Percival, who had great experience from Spurs. She came in at right back and really gave us that experience at the back. And then we also brought in Izzy Atkinson and Abby Larkin, two Irish internationals who gave us a bit more strength as well and pace. So I think, when we brought those three players in, we let two fringe players go to Newcastle, Leo Cataldo, Paige Bailey Gale, who weren't really first team. So we basically let two non-regulars, first team regulars go, and brought in two players out of the three that were going to be starting. So it strengthened our first 11. And we didn't. I don't think it really probably would have cost us that much because we let two go. So it's sort of 3 in and 2 out. That was the key. And then from that moment onwards, from sort of end of January, we just went. We scored so many goals. I mean, it's ridiculous. Our goal difference at the end was 20 goals better than anyone else. So it was just fantastic, and bit of a surprise. I think even the club would admit that they were surprised it happened that early. I think they were planning to build this year and then go for it next year. So for us to get promoted in this, at the end of this last season, it was a bit of a bonus, really, and I don't think anyone really expected it. And I think because of that, I think because of that, we're probably catching up a little bit, because I don't think the plan really was. But I don't think we were really planning for it, because I don't think we expected to get promoted last season. But it was a fantastic season, and they deserved it. They were the best team. They were the best team in the league by quite a way, I think.
I was very concerned when we lost Dean. Okay, really concerned when we lost Dean. I didn't know much about Laura Kaminsky. Okay, and that's me being brutally honest. But what a job she's done in the short time she's been with us.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's her first ever managed. She's been a coach, and she's FIFA qualified. Coach, one of the few women actually in the UK that have got that. She was a number 2 at Tottenham and at Charlton. And then obviously when Dean left, they interviewed a few people, and Laura obviously came out on top. And in her first season as a manager rather than an assistant manager coach, for her to achieve that is quite incredible, really. I think she was backed really well, because we had a lot of changes. We had Laura coming in, Grace Williams came in as head of women's football from Bristol City, and she just helped them get promoted the year before, so she knew how to get out of that division. So I think the two of them together, plus we moved grounds to Sutton, we started to play at Sutton, and I think we felt really at home there. Our home record there was exceptional. We scored so many goals. We won 9-1, 6-1, 4-0. I mean, we scored so many goals. We just felt really at home there. So I think all those things together, they could have gone the other way. Everything could have gone wrong, but it just all came good. And when you think about the the quality of that division last. I mean, I've been watching the women's team for about 7 or 8 years now, since we got promoted to that championship. I've seen it. I've seen all the every season we've been in at that level. Last season was by far the highest quality. I mean, the teams in there, I think any one of the top 5 really wouldn't have been out of place getting promoted. They were all really strong. It was a really strong division, and so for us to score that many goals and get so many, win the league in that competition, and there was some big investment from Birmingham and Charlton. They put a lot into their women's teams, and we came out on top. And I think it was thoroughly deserved in the end. But now, of course, we've got next season.
Yeah, well, we're going to come on to that now. And Phil, I don't know if you've got access to it. Keep your eye on the chat, because there's a couple of messages scrolling through there for you.
Okay.
One of which said Phil's come over from the dark side to the Red and Blue Review. Not at all. Phil and I have known each other, or known of each other, for some time, and he knows that he has our absolute support here on the Red and Blue Review. Right. Okay. So let's take it forward. How good or bad is it going to be? Is it going to be a car crash in your mind, or is it going to be a successful season? What is a successful season to you?
Well, of course, a successful season, that step up's massive. I mean, we are going to be playing teams with experienced WSL, Women's Super League players, and massively strong teams with internationals. I mean, the step up is bigger, I think, than the Championship men's to the Premier League. I think it's. I mean, the other thing, of course, as well, is there's only 12 teams, so it's tough. And the top 4 or 5 are going to speak for themselves, because Man City, Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool, and this other team, and also Villa are strong, and Brighton this summer. So I thought we were looking at West Ham, Leicester, Brighton, really, and Everton as the teams that we needed to. Those are the key games for us. We need to finish above one of those. Only one goes down. We need to finish 11th. But Brighton have just got Frank Kirby, one of the best players ever to play for England. They signed Frank Kirby. They strengthened in other areas. Leicester have brought in 3 or 4 top internationals. Everton's, they've got a manager called Brian Sorensen, who's an exceptional women's football manager. They're not going to go down. So realistically, it's us and West Ham, I think. I mean, I'm just being really realistic. The difference is huge, and we've got to try and finish above West Ham. I think that's what it comes down to for me. I can't imagine.
I think the other difference is the budgets. The difference between Man City, Arsenal, Everton, Chelsea, Arsenal, and our budget, it must be chalk and cheese.
Well, I think obviously we've increased our budget following promotion, because I don't think the club are going to let this go lightly. This opportunity doesn't come around very often. And the teams below in the Championship now, like Newcastle, are just throwing money. I mean, they've just signed an England international fullback, and in the Championship, London City Lionesses, they've got an owner called Michelle Kang, who owns a women's team, Washington Spirit in America, and Lyon, one of the top teams in Europe, women's teams in Europe, and she's just throwing money at London City, and they've just brought in one of the top European players of all time, a Sandley, who's played 160 times for Sweden, and they just brought her into the Championship. So you can imagine, the pressure for Palace now, because if we don't stay up, going up again is going to be really hard, because the teams underneath us, Nottingham Forest, I think their budget must be bigger than ours, because Forest just brought in 7 players of real quality, and they're in the 3rd division. So they're not even in the division below us. So everyone knows that women's football, the future is going to be massive, because TV rights are going to go up. After this season, there's a new TV deal, and it's going to quadruple and more. And everyone wants to be a part of it in the WSL. So everyone's spending money now, because they know the rewards are going to be there in the future. It's the fastest growing sport in the world. So I think for us now, this is an opportunity that, I'd imagine our budget's big, because I've seen the signs. The team are currently in the USA on tour. First ever overseas tour for the Palace women. They're in Utah. They're playing on early hours of Saturday morning against Utah Royals. So it's our first ever European world tour overseas match for the women. I mean, that's going to cost a lot of money to take them to America. And then we've obviously, we use the academy. We've got the facilities that the under-21 men use. the signs are there that we are invested and we're spending money on the women. We've got a really good academy coming through. I went to see the under-21 women play at Dulwich Hamlet yesterday, and there's some fantastic players coming through there. So there's a pathway through to the first team. All of this 3 years ago, you wouldn't even have dreamt it. You know, you wouldn't have dreamt it. They were training on old cricket.
Are any of the games on their tour going to be covered by Palace TV Plus? Are they going to be shown anywhere?
Well, this season, the US tour, I don't know. I've heard that they might be streamed, but I don't know. We'll find out obviously this week because the game's on Friday night in US time and Saturday early hours here. So we'll find out this week. I'm hoping that it's going to be streamed. I've heard that it might be, but I don't know for sure. But going forward next season, all the WSL games are live on YouTube. They've got a dedicated YouTube channel, and they're all going to be live free of charge. You can watch everything. Yeah, you can watch every game on. I
won't say what I was about to say because I was hoping I thought you were going to say, the Palace media side haven't got involved in the ladies thing, but obviously clearly I'm wrong. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, I think the league itself is going through a big change. There's a new company taking over the league. The FA won't be running the women's game in the top two divisions, and Steve Parish is on the board of the new company. So he's got a vested interest in the women's team because he's actually going to be one of the people running the women's game. He's on the board of directors for that new company. So they start in end of August, early September. They haven't actually taken over yet. But part of what they've agreed already is to renegotiate or continue the deal with Sky and the BBC for live games in the WSL, and any game that isn't on Sky or BBC, they've got a dedicated YouTube channel. So every single Palace women's game will be live either on Sky, BBC, or YouTube next season.
Fantastic information, mate. I'm really pleased you've come on because the majority of people that are watching this tonight, or indeed catching up on YouTube, won't be aware of anything but what you just said. That's brilliant stuff.
Well, one of the things the club need to do now is they need to start getting their information out better information out, because we're in a position we've never been in before. This is the first time we've ever been in the top division of English football. So, we need to really utilise this situation and push the agenda. And we also need to sort of we've had 5 pre-season friendlies in the UK announced by other clubs against us, and Palace haven't announced any of them. So as far as if you just check Palace's comms, you wouldn't know what games we've got coming up. We've only found out through the other teams advertising that they're playing Palace women. So the comms has got to get better. There's got to be an improvement in the way that they're selling this, because we have got a great opportunity now to start getting big crowds watching the women. We need to be. I mean, you look at Arsenal. They regularly, when they play at the Emirates, they get 50,000 plus, and they've hit a full house a couple of times, 60,000. The women's team at the Emirates. We need to, and that's because they really do push them. They've obviously got a good team and full of internationals, which helps, but they really do push their women's team, and so we need to be doing the same. But at the moment, we're a bit lacking in that department, and we need to be advertising, getting information out to people so they know what's going on. Because, like you just said, Nick, no one knew about the YouTube because Palace haven't announced what's going on. About that new dedicated channel for the WSL.
We will be all over their fixtures this season. Make no mistake. I like our Timbo. I understand you're the Fab representative for the women's game.
Yeah.
Any developments there that I need to know about for the coming season?
Well, I mean, the Fabs, we've got a lovely great group of dedicated people, including Tim, of course. Is are you hiding your face? Yeah.
No. I'll just sit like that all evening.
We've got a great group, dedicated group, who really want to sort of push some positive change where we can. Obviously, it's a two-way thing. It's us and it's very much a partnership with the club. The club have been very receptive to a lot of the things on the women's side. They provided a massive banner for us at Sutton to make it more like our home ground last season. Huge banner. It's like massive, and it comes down from the TV gantry. Yeah, the club asked us to design that, and they paid for it. I mean, that's really good, and so they've done some really good things. They've got us the home end that we wanted for next season as well at Sutton, because we thought because you're in WSL, you have to have a designated away end for for away fans. We thought we might be pushed because the away end at Sutton has always been the end we've been at, and we thought we'd be pushed out to allow that to be the away end, but they kept that for us. So we've got our normal end as well. The club have been really receptive, but the comms needs to improve, I think, so that people know what's going on more. We obviously need some new players. We've only got a squad of 15 at the moment, and one of them's on a long-term injury with an ACL, who just happens to be our top goal scorer, Elise Hughes. She did her ACL in the penultimate game of last season, so she's going to be out until probably the new year. She's a Wales international centre forward. She's brilliant, and she's now going to miss the first half of the season. So we've got 14 fit players, one goalkeeper, and we really do need to bring in 10 more players. We need to fill that 25 women's squad with some quality. And one thing we haven't really got, we brought in some players from overseas, but we haven't really got a lot of WSL experience, and that's what we need really. You can't stay up without. But yeah, those. So Shay Yanez, our new goalkeeper, she came from Bristol City. She joined Bristol City only halfway through last season, and she's joined us as our goalkeeper for next season. But we need another one as well. We've got to have 2 decent keepers. We've got a young keeper who's only 16, but you can't expect a player like that to go play in the WSL. Katrina Vaya. She is an exceptional signing from Everton, and she has played over 100 games, I think, for Denmark. So, and she can play in defence or midfield, and she's going to be a great addition. And then we've got Ashley Weirden, who's joined from Ajax in Holland, and she's a left-sided forward with loads of pace. And so she will give us a good outlet with a bit of pace. You need a bit of pace in the WSL, because especially away from home, because if you're playing on the break, you need to have some pace up front. So she'll give us that. And then we've got India Paige Riley, who's a New Zealand international. And she is also a sort of a midfielder forward. She's very quick as well. So you can see the way that we're bringing in pace, which we've really needed, I think. It's going to be vital for next season. So we brought in 4 new players, but we probably need another 10. And that doesn't come cheap in the WSL. So I'd imagine that our budget's sort of, got up quite a lot since last season. And we haven't got any choice. If we're going to have a go at this, we need to bring in some quality players.
Thank you for that. And Phil, before I let you go, I just want to know, how many games are scheduled to be played at Selhurst this year?
Well, so far they've announced 4. They've announced Man City, Brighton, Arsenal and Chelsea. Those are the 4 that they've announced so far. All the others are due to be played at Sutton. And the Chelsea game is our first home game on a Friday night, 27th, I think it is. 26th maybe of September. That's a Friday night, 27th, Friday the 27th. That's 7:30 kickoff at Selhurst, live on Sky. Please, anyone who's available and not, is free, please come down and support the girls. It's a historic occasion. It's our first home game in the WSL. It's at Selhurst Park. It's against the champions, Chelsea, who won the league last year. So we've really got to get support there. So I would say to anyone who's free that Friday night, be a part of that occasion, and you can say, I was there the first time we played at home in WSL. And when we get in the Champions League in a few years' time, you'll be able to say you were there at the beginning.
Phil, and I will be saying I will be there, because I'll make a commitment live on air right now that I will be there on Friday the 27th.
Glad to hear it, Nick.
And it'd be great to see you again, mate. Listen, we're going to have to wrap that up there, but
okay.
You're saying about the comms from the club. Well, perhaps your podcast and us can work together, and we can push the women's game massively this season. We are here for. Would you make me one little quick commitment? You pop back on a couple of times during the season. Let us know.
Oh, absolutely. But be very happy to. Yeah. And just before I go, because Jim's there, my favourite ever Palace player. I just want to. I actually met at the Team of the 80s video launch at Box Park in Croydon. I actually had a chat with Jim, and I don't know if you remember, Jim, but I gave you a match ticket for your first game in 1973 against Chelsea, and you signed a shirt for me. And I'll never, and I've got that shirt hanging. I'll never forget that. And I just want to say, because you're my favourite ever Palace player, it's just thanks again for doing that for me. Because that signed shirt is very kind of you. I treasure that. Thank you. It's lovely to see you. You're looking so well.
He's very generous with his time and everything he does with review. Phil Huffman from your good luck with your podcast. Sell out the guys today. And please come. We'll see you during the season many times, I hope. Take care, mate.
Thanks a lot for having me on, Nick. Thank you. Nice to see you all. Thanks. Cheers. Bye.
Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the upcoming fixtures, guys, because I'm conscious of the time. So upcoming fixtures, please, Nige. So we know our first game is away at Brentford on Saturday, is it? No, Sunday at 2:00. Sadly, I will be bronzing my godlike body in Crete at the time. So there's going to be the only game this season I'm going to, or one of the only games this season. Get that off the screen, crap. It's not even slightly amusing.
Brilliant.
That was great comic timing. I've got to give you that, Nigel. Well done, mate. And then obviously our first home game of the season, Saturday the 24th at home to West Ham, Chelsea away, Leicester at home, Man United at home, and Everton away. Now, take those down for us, Nigel, because we've got 6 games from the panel. 6 games, 18 points available. Jim, you first. How many points?
12.
What, really? Out of those first 6 games?
Why not?
Good
Didn't
on
you
man.
see us play last year?
Yeah.
I can only judge us on how we finish the season.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Not Ian.
Yeah, I'm going to go 12, and I'm going to say 3 wins and 3 draws.
Bloody hell. I thought Teresa Baker was the optimistic one by what she said in the chat. Is it 4th this year? You've gone for this, 3rd this year. Okay. So how many points, T?
14.
14.
What? No chance. Tim?
I'd like to know what reality I'm currently sitting in. 10 points.
Yeah, and Ferg, finish you. And Nigel, please, in the message in the group.
You can't say 2-1 Ferg either.
No, I know. So I was going to say 12, but because quite a lot of people said 12, I'm going to go 11.
Okay, 11, and I'm going to go 9. Right, ladies and gentlemen, out in Facebook land, YouTube land, wherever you are watching or listening to this podcast, we have started compiling a list of team members and viewers, okay, that want to give us their predictions. Rob Donovan, I've already got yours. 17th. Ian Lyons has said 11th. Lucy Usher said 11th. Tim said 10th. I said 9th. Teresa has said 3rd. Okay, Paul Bristow had said below, what does that say? Below 3rd, I think it is. Anyway, what we would like you to do in the chat, please, for the next couple of minutes while I'm babbling on, is give us your predictions for the season. Where are we going to end this season? Very, very good. Yasmin said 8th. John Knox is saying 9th. Rob Cranfield is saying 8th. I think that was before it disappeared off his screen. Kevin Latmore said, "Oh, look at these! The real panels out there." He's 10th. Now he's a good judge. He knows what he's talking about. Good evening, Paul. So we would like your. Oh, Monty said, "Big old Monty, nice to see him, mate. Mick, hope you're well, mate." He's saying we're going to finish champions. We will be champions of the Premier League. I'd love that. Cool. Can you imagine actually winning something? Right. So, yeah. And what we do after the show is when they've all scrolled through all your predictions, we will write them down on, more importantly, I think Nigel will make a note of them. And at the end of the season, we will review you, Teresa Baker. We will review you.
I'm laughing at all of you.
Yeah, I hope you
I really hope she's right.
I hope you're right as well. Okay, so Ian, do you want to do Super 6 and your fantasy football?
Yeah, of course. It's not my fantasy football, but yeah. I mean, Super 6 is back, of course. It's a great thing to do, Prediction League. Nigel, thanks for that montage. I'm not sure where all they came from. Everyone else has got a drink in their head apart from me. But yeah, get your predictions in, join the league. There's the code there, RZ7ALA, join Super 6. And you just need to remember to do the predictions, dead easy, and you might win lots of money. And then fantasy football is back as well, FPL. Difficulty is, of course, selecting your 3 Palace players to include in your fantasy team. You don't have to include any, of course, but I would suggest that some of them are definitely worthy of consideration with that start. Those first 6 games look pretty attractive compared to others. And sorry, can we just have that back, Nigel, just for a moment? So if you do play FPL and you're not in our league already, the code there is a lowercase L to begin with. That's a lowercase L. It's caused a bit of difficulty. People think it's a 1 or something different, but it's a lowercase L. 71 ODM is the code on Fantasy to join the league. But I think we've got some great FPL assets out there. Of course, Eze is in a lot of teams. He's well liked in the FPL world. And I can't see beyond Daniel Munoz for me. I think he's a fantastic asset. He's 5 million. He'll cost you in FPL. Gets forward. He's got lots of offensive potential. And we hope for a few clean sheets as well, of course. And then once Jean-Philippe Mateta is back, if he carries on where he left off last season, then he's going to be in a lot of sides. And there's your 3. There's your triple up on Palace in FPL. So really excited for the FPL season. Can't wait to get going. And see if you can beat me in the Red and Blue Review League, guys.
Jim, have you ever done Super 6?
No. I don't gamble.
Huh?
I don't gamble.
You don't have to gamble. It doesn't cost any money.
I know that.
Get on there, dude. It'd be great.
I'm not very good at predictions, so...
Well, let's be honest. I did predict Scotland would go out in the first week of the Euros. So
well, that went hard. Well, I predicted that England wouldn't win it. So what's the difference?
No, absolutely right. No, I think at least Scotland turned up. At least if they played with a bit of passion. Anyway, we digress. Is there anything I've forgotten, Nigel? I'm sure there is. I know we've got next week's show coming up, but is there anything else I've forgotten? Teresa, did you want to on you go?
When does the transfer window close?
End of August.
31st of August, 11 o'clock at night.
Right, okay.
So we've got plenty of time yet. No need for the bedwetters to get out yet. If in 2 weeks' time we're still sitting here with only the 3 signings, then I think there'll be cause for a bit of concern. That's the guys winning the Stateside Cup, of course. We've got a little bit of silverware. And the next show, Nigel, I can see Nigel frantically flicking through his pictures. There you go. Look at our new graphic Nigel designed. Some love for Nigel in the chat, please, everybody, because he works tirelessly behind the scenes and he's come up with his lovely new graphic. Another brick in the wall, that's Palace. Okay, we will return with Ian Noble hosting your show next Monday. Okay, I might join you from the beach. I might not. I might join you from the bar. I might not. Okay, and obviously we need your predictions now, please, for the first game of the season away at Brentford. In the chat, go for it. And we will compile them for Ian to review next Monday night show. Guys, are we done? I think we're there, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so. I just want to say that I don't think I've known optimism like this pre-season since we got promoted. Interesting that Phil said that they weren't expecting to get promoted. Listen, in 2013, neither were we, particularly. Went into those playoffs against Brighton, and we didn't really expect to beat them. We didn't really expect to get promoted that season, and yet we did, and we haven't looked back. So it can be done. But the optimism this close season has been fantastic. You know, the end of last season was brilliant. We didn't want it to end. It did end, of course, and we go again. We've lost one of our star players. We've got 3 good replacements in to compete for places. And I, for one, are very optimistic. My red and blue class is definitely half full this pre-season.
Jim, a bit of positivity from you for the coming season, please, mate.
Did you say Tim or Jim?
Jim.
Yeah, I mean, you can only go by what you've seen last year. I mean, obviously, it's a case of keeping your better players. As I said before, Gehi won't diminish your team because I think the lad that came in, Riyadh, you've also, I mean, don't forget Klein, Anderson, and Richard played there against some of the best teams in the league.
Absolutely.
And we hammered every one of them. So I would look at this. I'm going to agree with Teresa. We're going to finish in the top 10.
Go on then, Teresa. Give me a bit of positivity, please.
Just in the chat, the window closes on Friday the 30th of August, by the way.
Yeah, okay.
So it says Paul Bristow and somebody else.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry,
your
what was the other question?
Your positivity.
No,
no, that's your second glass of the show. Are you positive about this coming season?
Absolutely. Can't wait to get back to Selhurst. I didn't want last season to finish. I was loving going.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you as well. Ferg.
Yeah, excited for the season. Some good signings. I think we'll make a few more, but I just think Oliver Glasner is, 3 points again. Ole, ole. We'll be singing that hopefully after every game.
Tim,
can't wait.
We haven't covered Fab, Tim. I know you want to touch on Fab very quickly.
There's a couple of things coming up in the very near future that they're going to need you guys to get involved in. Got a fan survey coming out, and we will have a stand in the fan zone for the home game against West Ham. I'll have more details a bit later on that, and I can let Ian know for Monday.
Fantastic, mate. A bit of positivity to close the show, please.
The way we're playing the pre-season, the attacking football, the pressing, and I agree with Glasner in charge. I think all looks good.
And so do I. And my positivity is that the Red and Blue Review will be with you each and every week throughout the season, and maybe more if we have a cut run as well. So on behalf of me and this wonderful panel and all the hard workers in the background, because I will not forget you, Nige and Luce and Greg, thank you so much for everything you do. Guys, thank you for giving up your evening. And Ian will be back next week, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time looking gorgeous and bronze. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.